is, oh, we're live. Woo!
Let's
There's
go.
three things. An introduction to Sizzle. The second one is the secret of presentations that are mouth-watering. Mm-hmm. And the last one is what's your secret sauce?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So there's 3 hours.
I was thinking more like 30 hours.
Well, brother, we could write a book. We could do, what's that, Grey's Anatomy?
Book or a Bible?
Mahal, I know. That's why I'm waffling.
Yeah.
I've got the producer director in the background, the Steven Spielberg Moomin.
What are you producing?
Well, this. Right?
Okay, this. Anything else?
Did you see my burn?
Yeah, you're cooking too much.
Man, that was the worst, nastiest. I put in the chicken breast into the pan.
Too much oil?
Oh, and it went chung.
Yep.
And it was burnt. Normally I cut myself.
Yeah.
Because I use the world's greatest knives, Wushdorf.
Yep. What's it called?
And
Wushdorf?
Wushdorf Classic. It's the ultimate chef knife.
Yeah, you gotta have sharp knives.
Oh, they've got to be sharp. I mean, and mine are like scalpels. Mm. And you're rubbing them on the steel every time you cook. But the big secret of cooking is, hey, Hans, Mongolia.
Wushdorf.
I'm
gonna have to check out those knives.
The greatest knives in the world. Been going for about 150 years. Brian Landis, look, your hero, Ruan is here. Right? Did you see what Brian posted on Facebook? I felt neglected.
He said he could. Yeah, I actually met Brian in person.
Man, I was so sad. I had to go and get counseling. Thinking, my God, why am I there? Right? So what I've done is I've sent out messages to my family who are all asleep. Art, baby, what's up, my man?
What's going on, Art? How you doing? Hi, Zara.
Hi, Zara.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, our video we made on my YouTube channel did very well. People really liked the information that you had to give. People really liked the information of, the experience you've had. And I think people are going to get a lot out of this.
Yep.
Sell the sizzle, not the steak, which is such an interesting headline when you really think about it.
There's Bill Scholler. Is this where you get the steak?
Bill, how you doing?
Jim.
Did you think of this name, Shane?
Which one?
Sell the sizzle, not the steak?
No, actually, a guy back in the history about sell the sizzle, not the steak, the Elmer Wheeler, right? In 1929, he was a reporter and he got laid off. And he decided he was going to go out and become a salesman. And he started this concept of sell the sizzle, not the steak, which I'll explain what it's all about, right? But this guy became huge. He was like Anthony Robbins. And he won an Academy Award, right? So he was just massive. He died in 1968.
Yeah.
Traveled the whole world teaching people about selling sizzle, not steak. It's seriously old school, but, there's a couple of stories in there. The people that are now super famous sell sizzle. They don't sell steak. Donald Trump's a perfect example of selling the sizzle, not the steak, and he became the president of the United States. Right? So it's an interesting concept. It's one that I've used for all my selling life. Once I was taught how to sell the sizzle.
So basically, you're selling the outcome of the situation, not the actual physical product.
Well, people get caught up in the product. They get caught up in features and things like that, which is okay. But what they forget about is it's not that makes people buy or book. What it is it's what they're going to get out of it. What is that sizzle? With the steak, right? when it's coming on a sizzling platter, everybody sells a bit of meat. Everybody. You and I could walk down, middle of California, some street in Orange County, and there's 20, 30 places in one street selling steak. But one of them's busier than another.
Right.
Very few have got a Michelin Star. One can sell a steak for $12. One can sell it for $85. What's the difference? The sizzle. That it's super. Really, really, it's all about that meaning. What does it mean to me? And when we converted to websites, if you and I got on Google and said, I want a website builder in Orange County, California, how many would we get?
Millions.
Exactly. So what makes you different? And that's the part a lot of people don't get. They sit back and say, well, I got great customer service and I'm a great designer.
Blah, 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 blah.
Everybody's got that, baby.
It's kind of like if you even say that, I mean, well, that's obvious. What else makes you different, right? I mean, I tell that to our team every time. We have these why choose us things on our websites. Every single client that we work with, we want to know what their unique selling proposition is. If you have to put, well, I'm licensed and insured, well, it's like, duh, right? Isn't anybody that's doing your type of business, aren't you? So why add that as a key point? But continue.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a people. This stuff was taught to us. When I started selling 40 years ago, it was taught that that road to a sale, right, which we talked about before, which is meet and greet, how important that was, right? Qualification, how important that was. Presentation, right? All of that is finding out what's the sizzle and then presenting the sizzle. But what happens is they end up writing this War and Peace document, right, about how wonderful this is and their service and the features and the benefits. And, you see it in content pages how, the pH balance of this shampoo is going to do wonderful things to your hair. No one cares. They don't care. What do they care about? Is this going to make me look like a supermodel?
Well, why would they care? Why would they care about that?
Right, because that's their ego. All right. They want to be looking in the mirror and saying, shit, I'm fabulous. All right. You asked me before, I love when people say you're fabulous. I love it.
Yeah.
Because that's what drives me. I love it when people say, man, you got a freaky logo with a camel. Yeah, well, that's what I stand out. I'm different. I didn't call it, sort of proud and gorgeous websites.com. It's the camel.co. And people know the camel.co. And they know that loud Aussie who does things different, who doesn't know how to build a website, but I sell lots of them, right? So Sizzle works.
Interesting.
That's it. That's the webinar, Ruan. We can go home now.
Now with the Sizzle, I mean, you're basically selling what they get when they own the product or service, kind of like what you were saying, right? Like the shampoo is a byproduct of looking beautiful. Yeah. Looking beautiful is going to get you a better romantic partner. By having a better romantic partner, you have happiness. So in a sense, we're always trying to buy happiness, not necessarily a product or service. How do you replicate that with websites, though, or even digital services? I mean, I'm curious to hear how you do it.
How I do it? I got to get back to it's the meaning. What's really important to them to convey and what their customers want out of it. Like if I'm, and I rarely sell a website now. We deal with agencies where we're selling something totally different. They're selling the websites. We're not selling the websites.
Right.
But, we've started this new thing now, which is rent a site, right? Pardon me, which is on a retail side of it. So the company is selling websites, but I'm not. But what do we do? This will answer the question. What do I focus on? We don't sell websites. We don't. We sell customer attraction programs. What else do? We sell first web impressions. So, Mr. Customer, what it is about you that's going to attract customers to you to book and buy? That's I want to look like a supermodel. That's I want to attract a great wife or husband or partner or whatever. That's that I want to look in the mirror and go, God, you look fantastic today. That's what it's about when you're looking at what's important in your website. That's the meaning we want to get to. What's the sizzle that we're trying to put across there? What's that garlic smell? What's that red wine sauce? Oh, mashed potatoes with gravy. Yummy. What is that? It's not a website. It's not. Especially after COVID. Right? It's a customer attraction program. For what? Oh, who said I look like a supermodel? Thank you.
I think that was Anton. He's the only one that could moderate that way on this call. So,
Anton, you guy, right? So that's how I answer that question. If I'm selling it, I've got to get it out of the customer. What is it? What's the meaning to you about your business? You know, like you see it every day with drag and drop websites, right? What do? They all look the same, right? What's the meaning? The meaning is we cut hair. There's a really good story about a lady who was what do you call them now? Servers. We used to call them waitress and waitresses. What are they called now?
Still waitress and waitresses. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So you go to a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And this gal is, taking people orders and, once they've finished their dinner and all that, and she goes back. And what is the normal thing they say? Could I offer you some dessert? So what? Right? So what? It's dessert. And this gal comes out and says, do you know what? I just got to share this with you. What we have tonight is something really special that you're really going to love. Imagine your grandmother's apple pie. And it's got this beautiful serving of ice cream on the top that when we bring it to you, it's really starting to melt. Could I interest you in that beautiful apple pie with ice cream? Or would you like it without?
Right.
So what did she do? She sold Sizzle. She didn't just say, would you like to take your dessert order?
Yeah, I will always say no to that.
No.
Yeah, it's like you're
getting you on the sizzle. And it could be, like you've had a crepe, Suzette, cooked at your table.
Yep.
How amazing is that?
Yeah.
But if they turn around and said, would you like a crepe for dessert? You go, oh, yeah, righto.
Yeah.
But if you see it across the table and it's like, whoosh, and they're pouring the brandy on it and, yeah, I'll have one of them.
Yeah, the experience.
A drag and drop website with just the normal traditional photographs of, here you go, and we'll cut it. Where's the sizzle in that?
Yeah, there's
and
no
people
sizzle.
say, oh, but you can't do that. Well, you're customizing just with your content and a couple of pictures, right? Just give it some sizzle. But a lot of them don't know their sizzle. You asked me that question at the start. You asked me a question. What was it again? Who are you?
I said, who do you? I rephrased it as, who the hell do you think you are?
Who the hell do you think you are? Right? Well, imagine if you said that to the customer. Hang on, before we do anything else, I want to get to your sizzle. Who are you?
No, you have to ask it the same way I asked it to get a.
Who the hell are you?
There you go.
I love that. We're doing good, Ruan. We get some good questions in here.
But I think what you said is really important because there's a million drag and drops, there's a million web design companies, there's a million people on the planet. But really, what customers are buying anytime it's digital is your mind and your strategy, because Squarespace, they can't think for you, right? They don't have, as much as I'm sure they have good AI components and machine learning components, they don't know how to love. They don't understand empathy. They don't understand attraction. They don't understand that the meaning drive for most of our decision making is actually to become better partners in our relationships. And so when someone's buying from you, they're buying the 25% technical knowledge that you may have. Often they're buying the 75%, the human capacity and technical knowledge or knowledge that you may have. And they may not know how to represent that on their own website. So they're hiring you, or in your case, an agency's hiring you to do this work for them. So I think with AI and machine learning and a lot of these things where robots, really that is the steak. And then the sizzle is the human beings putting the affectionate words, kind of like what you're saying with Elma Wheeler, the legendary salesperson. They're the ones sizzling those products. And so it makes total sense. Like when customers come to us, they're mainly concerned about how they can be different. Because being the same, like you said, is just not a winning strategy. You're always going to look the same inside of a field full of sheep. But if you're a different colored sheep and people can clearly identify that, they're going to want to work with you.
Yeah. There's another good story about someone selling real estate. And they had a customer that had a particular need for, this house, this floor plan, this amount of bedrooms, blah, blah, blah. But what the salesman did was he qualified them. And he found out, their emotional things and, where they were from and their background. And what happened was, in the discussion, he found out that she lived locally. And one of the things she always remembered about the house was this beautiful big tree in the backyard, right? This guy showed her all these houses and he had one house left. None of the other houses fitted, and even this house did not fully fit her needs. But everywhere he presented that house, he said, and hey, if you take a look out the window, can you see that big tree? It's just like the one you had in your childhood. When they stood at the kitchen, hey, when you're cooking your food here, just look out there. What do you see? And she said, oh my God, it's like the tree were there when I was a kid. Now, the house didn't do it. That was a steak. But the sizzle was the big tree out the back. Because all she kept thinking of, and that's what he did. He sold the sizzle. It's like selling a motor car, all right? That a car is a car. It gets you from point A to point B. But one car can get you there in style. One car can get you there with performance. One car can get you there with such a feeling of, wow, you're going to drive down the street. And what are people going to say? There's a successful man. It does the same thing. It gets you from A to B. But what's the sizzle? What's going to get them that it's not a website? It's a customer attraction program. What is it about you that's going to really attract? It can be drag and drop, Ruan. It can be. But you can sizzle, drag and drop. Sadly, what we see a lot of the time is a lot of steak, not a lot of sizzle. It's like, with you, with SEO, when you're writing keywords, you can write drag and drop keywords.
Sure.
That'll get you ranking, but they're not going to get you customers.
Right.
But if you put a good sizzle statement in there, oh, thank you, Jesus, right? Away we go.
And I think it's also important that the more sizzling you do, eventually you do have to explain and give the steak, right? So you don't want to sizzle too hard because then the steak, they're going to have really high expectations when they do sign up for your product or service. But I wanted to explain to you, have you ever seen The Office?
The Office.
It's a TV show. It's in the States. But it's very interesting. They hire a new CEO, and the CEO wins the interview over Warren Buffett. And when they asked him the question of who the hell do you think you are, the CEO, quote unquote, said, you see, I sit across from a man. I see his face. I see his eyes. Now, does it matter if he wants $100 worth of paper or $100 million of deep sea drilling equipment? Those are two very different things, right? But the role he's going for is paper. Yeah. And so he says, don't be a fool. He wants respect. He wants love. He wants to be younger. He wants to be attractive. Yep. There's no such thing as a product.
Nope.
Sizzle, right? Don't ever think there ever was. There is only sex. Everything is sex. You understand what I'm telling you is a universal truth. And then they hired him like that. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. It's very critical to be different.
I spend so much time. I work it out. If I look at our two top clients, we rarely have a conversation about websites. Rarely. Including Saturdays and Sundays. If there's a great UFC fight, we'll have a conversation about UFC. If there's a great Australian rules football game, we'll have a conversation about that. We have a meeting once every quarter. And these are big companies, right? And you know what the meetings are? We call it a pub meeting. We each buy a can or a stubby of beer and we sit down and for 20 minutes, we talk like three guys at a bar. We tell jokes, we tell experiences, we have a laugh about what's going on, right? It's all about the relationship. It's got nothing to do with websites. You know, that's what's critical, because that's the sizzle. Now, I get your point, what you said before. There is a fine line between the ShamWow salesman and the sizzle. You still got to get into features and benefits. We're not saying don't do that, but it's how you market those, how you demonstrate and present that to the client, because you're demonstrating it with passion that means something to him or her. Not, like Core Web Vitals, okay? We're all excited about Core Web Vitals, but what does it mean to Harry customer? We're excited about drag and drop, but what does it really mean? We're excited about quick, fast site building, ease of edit. Well, what does it mean to him? Well, if you find out that he loves to play golf or she loves to play golf, and you say, you know what, this thing, it's so easy to edit, you're going to have more time to hit the back nine on a Friday afternoon. Well, then you're giving it meaning, right? Core Web Vitals, we're good at it. Why? Because your customers, how many times have you been on the phone and it takes too long and you want to get off there? Well, this gives you the opportunity with our Duda platform, with our Core Web Vitals, we're number one. Right? So all those other guys, you'll be waiting there for 3 seconds and be wanting to do something else. Do you want your customers to be like that? No. Right? Your time's important to you because you told me that.
Now, Shane, is that something that you get a lot with your enterprise customers? Is that really what they're focused on? Is the speed of the websites? And interesting.
Doesn't matter. And it's funny that SEO is really important. You know that. I mean, SEO, ease of build, ease to customize, widgets, huge, right? Because, Duda's pushed it from the start, but we hammer that security aspect of scripts and plugins. Yes, a lot of the agencies that are out there, they love one particular mob and, they use that. Well, that's their life. They can do whatever they want. But what we found, like we had one agency, we migrated 600 sites across to Duda from WordPress.
Now, were they already decided on Duda, or did you have to convince
them? No, we had to work with Duda to do a bit of a sell job.
So what was the last tipping point of them going, you know what, Shane, do it?
My sense of humor.
Oh, okay.
You know what it was? It was really the truth. It was the relationship, because, we started, I can't remember, what was it? There was, we were having a discussion. This is good. We're having a discussion and we're on Zoom, and I noticed there was one of the people had a refrigerator, and there was a towel from San Francisco 49ers or the Cubs or whatever, I don't know, right? But it was from their football team. And I said, hey, I noticed you've got that. Are you a supporter? And all of a sudden, the whole conversation changed. We went from talking about website migration to how good NFL is.
Interesting.
Right? And then I shared my experience of watching NFL versus AFL. All right, it's boring and, it takes too long, and this, compared to AFL where it's fast and it's hard and all this sort of stuff. And then we moved to baseball because I got great stories about baseball. It was amazing how that was probably a game changer.
Yeah, the common interest.
Yeah, because there was probably 3 or 4 people going for the deal, and we won it. And we were probably the smallest out of all of them.
Now, are you researching these people that you're talking to and kind of seeing if they have common interests with you ahead of time? Because what if you're in that situation and you don't have a common interest with your prospect?
I tend to use LinkedIn. I use Facebook. I do investigate people.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if they're, when you're dealing at the major agency level, you'll guarantee that there's someone that's a superstar on LinkedIn, and you'll be able to get that. And then you'll always see something in a photograph, and you'll think, oh, what's that about? And you just bring that up in conversation. And you know what it's like? People love to talk about themselves.
Yes, they
They
do.
love to talk about their kids. They love to talk about themselves. They love to talk about their achievements.
Of course.
Right? Their alma mater, you know, if they're in SC or whatever back in the day, they'll talk about that all day long. You know, I got one friend, he's 72 and still lives on the phone that he went to the University of Southern California. And he has the number plate frames. He has all that stuff. If they were in the military, right? And, you know, you thank them for their service and you start, all of a sudden you're in a conversation about their time overseas. Once they find out we're in the Philippines, every one of them's got a Filipino story or a Thailand or a Malaysia, right? So, yes, I think it's important. Again, that's part of Sizzle. You know, a lot of people want to get to the business side first. You know, I don't like to do that. I like to have a chat.
Yeah, because listen, your prospect has had business calls usually all day.
Yeah.
And here you come onto a call and it's almost relieving that you're talking about football or sports or soccer or the military, whatever your topic of conversation is, before you actually start doing the business work. So that's interesting how you approach that. How would you approach it, though, if you had no common interest with that person? For me, I don't like sports at all. So for me, having those conversations, they're a little more difficult because the client will say, well, did you see the football again? And I'll have to search it. And so how would you approach that chain if you weren't, if you weren't in common interest with that person?
I'd find out something. I would say, so how was your weekend? What did you do?
And then drill down from there.
Yeah. And I'm a great believer in knowing a little about a lot, not a lot about a little. My father taught me from the get-go, general knowledge is the most powerful tool you can have, right? So I read everything and I learn about all different subjects. My mother would watch any sport, didn't care, even if she didn't know anything about it, right? And, you know, for instance, you know, when they toss the bag in a bar to get closest to the wall, do you know that's a televised sport now?
That's crazy.
It's huge, right?
What's it
and
called?
I watch that, and I know, and I watch boxing, and I watch UFC, and I watch all sorts of football, whether it be European, everything else. I love motor racing. I love car racing. I love to cook. I love to drink great wine and good whiskey.
And the important thing that people need to know too is what you're saying right now. A lot of people that do business have similar interests that way. We all like to cook. We all like to save time. We all like to drive fast cars. Your prospect, usually if they went into business, they want more out of life. So you can almost assume with a simple, how was your weekend? How did you spend your weekend? They're going to give you some of these quick little things like you said.
And away you go.
You drill down,
Oh, yeah. Like my son, who's a senior guy, he's 30 years old. You get him talking about his daughter, who's 2 years old, she won't shut up. He will just talk and talk and talk. His tattoo, he's got a full sleeve tattoo, right? Which is the most magnificent work of art.
Of his daughter?
It's like,
of his daughter, you're saying?
No, it's like a Yakuza thing. When you see that poking out the end of his shirt,
talk about it.
He will talk for half an hour how painful it was.
What's that tattoo? And then they're like,
that tattoo is a huge story.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't finish that bit about the migrations. I better quickly finish that.
Sure.
Because that was important on the Duda side. One of the things they wanted, all the WordPress sites, because they had so much drama with plugins and scripts, they said, all these new Duda sites, if we go to Duda, how can we make sure we don't do that? And all we did was talked about the widget builder. That was the Sizzle. And I reckon that was a big game changer with them. All right. So I wanted to finish that off because I felt like I left that unfinished, that bit. It was too much about me.
And listen, a lot of stuff in that migration could have gone wrong, and it seems like you handled it well, which that's the steak part, right? Like the migration.
That was absolutely critical. Why? Because they'd had so many sleepless nights about that. And all I kept saying was, and the good part about it, you're going to sleep better at night because everything's in the widget builder, which is within Duda. It's not hosted in Russia or Afghanistan or Pakistan. It's hosted by AWS. It's all safe, and you're going to be better, and your customers are going to be better, right? Because they had I think it was either legal or accounting with their customers, and you don't want to upset them; they'll sue you, right? So that's the beautiful thing. And the widget builder, that was the tree looking out the window, right? That's what it ended up being like. So that was a sizzle. And only by talking to them, which brings us to another famous person, Sigmund Freud. He said there's only two motivators in life. There's only two reasons you do things, pleasure or pain. Right? When you do something, it gives you great pleasure. Or when you think about doing it, it's going to give you great pain. When you're having that, I've got to find the sizzle moment, I've got to find what it is about them that is going to give us a good relationship. Sigmund Freud's method is a great method. Find out what gives these people great pleasure. Bang, there's your sizzle. Right? There's your moment where you're going to build the relationship. But find out what gives them pain, and that's what you're going to avoid. Like imagine if I would have said to the migration client, that's okay. We can get our developers to put a script in there for you. She'll be right. And all of a sudden you could see the face turn sour. But what did I have? Pleasure. Widget builder. Pleasure, right? So I focus on that a lot. Even the way I write proposals, even the way I do a pitch, it's always I've got to qualify them on their pleasure and pain points, because then that allows me to get the sizzle. Not to be a ShamWow guy, because you've still got to get into features and benefits. You've still got to get into that.
So to deliver.
It's not, as we say in Australia, it's not all fits and giggles, right? That it's not just a magic show. You've got to come down and you've got to sell them some tickets. Right. And yeah.
Well, I think to your point, the pain is why we make a switch. We don't make a switch because we're pleased, right? We never say, oh, I'm happy with this. Let me just switch and do this. That doesn't happen, right? So although the pleasure might not be perfect, as the pleasure's there, it's enough for you to retain yourself. Because I go on the Duda Facebook group all of the time and see kind of some of the feedback that they get. And that's not enough feedback for somebody to just go, you know what, I'm going to drop all my sites here and move it over here. It has to be a real pain, right? So it has to be a real problem, like with what you said with Sigmund Freud, which I definitely have read a lot about. Anything that's psychological like that, I definitely take more of a look into. So in that case scenario, just going back off of that, their pain, did they already know their pain, or did you have to, kind of talk about it with them?
Talk about it. And there's nothing wrong with saying, if you when you go to a psychoanalyst and you've got problems in your relationship, what don't you like about your wife? What makes you unhappy with your husband? Well, there's nothing wrong with saying, what don't you like about your current website? What makes you happy about your current supplier? What makes you unhappy about your current supplier? Right? What makes you happy? What makes you unhappy?
Yeah, people will answer it.
Beg your pardon?
People will answer that. They will tell you.
Absolutely. Because it's a great question. Why? People love to whinge and they love to brag.
Yeah.
This is just all human nature that you're capitalizing on.
Yeah.
Right? There's no app for that.
Yeah.
Right? That's just common sense selling. Does it work? We sell a lot. Right? And it's more fun. Nothing beats a great chat with a customer. I mean, really, do you love it?
Of course I do. I think if I didn't love it, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. I would be doing something completely different, because the conversation, you're learning new information that you can almost use as a benefit to either solve their problem or continuing giving them pleasure. Because at one situation, you might have an existing customer, and that's an opportunity for you to either solve a small pain point, because if it was big enough, they would leave you, or you can continue the pleasure that they're seeking and give them more of it, reaffirming their agreement with your company and your relationship. So of course I love it. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why I do this at all, is because one, I love technology. And two, I love problem solving, and I love talking to people. If I didn't, I don't think we'd be doing so well.
No. And me, I look on the fact, I love a beautiful website. I love it. Even now, and you and I, how many websites have we seen? Like literally
Millions. Yeah.
Millions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when I see one that's just drop dead gorgeous or really vibrant and exciting, I just go, oh my God, have a look at that.
Gives you energy. Gives you energy.
Yeah, it gives me energy. And I could be having the worst day and I could look at that. And it's the same with a conversation on Zoom. You know, I could be sitting there thinking, oh, I don't want to do this. Right. And all of a sudden, game face is on. But it'll be something in the conversation that we're not talking business. We're talking about life or something like that. Right? We're talking about sport. We're talking about the kids. We're talking about pleasurable stuff. And I get off there and go, oh, how good was that? The second thing I might say, what a great deal. But the first thing, it's that joy of the conversation. And I thought about it, that psychoanalyst, you never leave a relationship because you're happy.
Of course not. That doesn't make any sense. No, that doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make any sense.
Unless you're forced, unless you're forced to move from that relationship physically by some outside power, nobody would ever do that.
But if a husband and wife are happy, or a customer and a supplier are happy, they never leave each other. We have one client, 5 years, major client. And everybody wants that business, but they've never left us. Why? Because it's like we are the most happily married couple. They've had management changes. They've had staff changes. They've had process changes, but we're still together. It's just one beautiful harmony because we know nothing but pleasure. Even the painful moments, we've created and turned them around into pleasure.
And I think it's important. I think it's important to realize too, when people are in those painful moments, they're keeping an eye on how fast you react to it. Yeah. Because that's going to, when people are in pain, they are going to tell themselves a story that's going to confirm their pain every way they can.
Every way.
This freaking Shane guy, the site's down, he's not responding, and it's been 20 minutes, but normally they're okay waiting a few days for you to respond. So it's really important understanding the urgency of pain compared to pleasure. Yeah.
And you've got to use that and use it as a motivator and a driver in everything you do. You know, we just had the Easter break. I'm not bragging here, but it's a good point. We had the Easter break. You know, the Philippines, 97% Catholic, right? Mm-hmm. The kids, they're gone for 4 days. Our Facebook message thing, right, is important to the camel. And I had all these people asking questions. Now, it had the little, what's it called? The autoresponder that says, hey, we're on holidays, blah, blah, blah. But I still wrote a little personal message. Hey, this is Shane, because most people know who I am, right? Just wanted to drop a message. The team will be back on Monday morning. They'll be at it. Why? They're feeling pain. That fact that I wrote that one line gives them a bit of pleasure.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Just a little itty bitty things, you know, that separates us.
Yeah.
You know, from the other guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, that migration doesn't sound like it was something that was easy to do. It sounds like they already had, you know, if they're raising their hand to talk to you, it means they're ready to get vulnerable. If they're not raising their hand, you're just soliciting. So a lot of the times when you're talking to a customer that's raised their hand, got on a Zoom call, took time out of their day to even talk to you, they are ready to answer some of the hardest questions that you may have. So while it might not be appropriate to say, Shane, who the hell are you? If that's the first question you ask somebody that wants to do business with you, it might make sense to say, can you explain to me why we took the time on this call? They're going to tell you the pain. They're going to tell you the pleasure right away. And then you can do what you said, define what is that pain and pleasure, and then start talking about leisure, but then also talking about business in the same concept. We have this saying on our websites, right on our website. And I would hope to assume that you think our website's nice. But on our website, it says for our careers page, because the people that we employ is the most important part of our business. Time is not money, right? Because it's not. Time is love. Time is joy. Time is happiness. That's such an older saying of time is money. You know, everything's about money. Well, people are really starting to seek profit in peace now. Peace of
They are.
mind. Peace of mind. Look at you. I mean, you're in the Philippines. You're living your life a certain way because it gives you that peace of mind. You could be in Wall Street, stressed out, making good money, but developing all types of sicknesses because you're not sleeping. People are looking for peace now. And your customer, when they talk to you, yes, they want to make more money, but a lot of the times they're also looking to see how they can get better sleep at night.
Oh, absolutely. And I got to keep doing that. I kept hitting the microphone with the thing. But if I look at back in the day, when I had international business development roles and I had, I was CEO of 2 public companies, right? And the stress level was just so bad. Now, the pleasure level was the money.
Right.
But when I added the 2 up and I thought, hang on, I'm not happy earning this money. I'm not happy doing these meetings. They were more like all-in brawls than what they were, pleasurable moments. So I don't like that at all. You're right. When I go home to Australia, after about 10 days, I'm missing rice and coconut trees. I want to come back here. This is my home. Why? Because I love the tropics. When I go somewhere it's winter, I am miserable. I feel old, right? I don't like it. It gives me nothing but pain. So it's got to be a pretty good pleasure point for me to even get there, but the pain will come in real fast. I like what you said. And I think, I don't know if you agree, but COVID, that 2.5 years we all spent on Zoom, I think it changed a lot about us, where the relationship is more important. How we look after people, it's not that time is money, that normal driver behind that. I don't think it's acceptable to what it was. What do you think?
I mean, I think that COVID was, like you said, I mean, I think a lot of people, that's how we did relationships. So we kind of value relationships a lot more now when we get to actually see people physically. I think the whole mentality of time is money, work for your time, that's slowly starting to go away because COVID showed us exactly what was important. And if you're clocking in your hours, 80 hours a week, and you're making good money, but you're not happy with it, people are willing to trade that for peace of mind now because when you're at the deathbed and you're thinking about what's coming next, did you have good peace of mind and did you have loving relationships? And are people going to come to your funeral and is your spirit going to live on? Or are you some rich guy that doesn't have good relationships, is depressed, is, overweight, has all of these diseases and all of this stuff? And a lot of that stuff comes with stress and not having peace of mind. So, and I think that that's really important for anybody that's starting a business or is doing business right now, is there's no perfect business model. The perfect business model gives you the reward that you're looking for out of it, whether that's a lot of money or whether that's peace of mind. I have friends that have 15, 20 websites that they're managing, charging $500 a month. And to me, looking at that, that's not the business model I want. But that business model, they're traveling, they're doing vacation, they're doing some other interesting things. And that's the business model they've created. So there's no such thing as perfect. I think when it comes to business, we prioritize revenue and cash as a key performance indicator, but we don't necessarily monitor total societal impact or even internal impact that we're creating for the loved ones around us.
Yeah, you made me think. My dad had a great saying. He said his business advice and life advice in the same thing. He said, son, remember this. To have a great business, you need 3 things. You need a good lawyer, a great accountant, and a friendly bank manager. But let me also say this. None of them will give your eulogy at your funeral.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's funny because
the accountant won't talk about your balance sheet. Right? The lawyer won't say all the lawsuits he saved you from. And the bank manager won't talk about how much money you got in the bank. Right? So I really believe that for some reason there's been this shift. And even the people that work for us, we had one that was in Manila, for instance, and Manila pays more than a province because everything's 30% more. And they moved back to get a lower salary. Why? The money was great, but there was so much pain involved in it compared to the pleasure they got of being closer to their family, being a little bit more, not as fast and high paced. The traffic in Manila is shocking. They come back here and you can at least drive and you're not going to be bumper to bumper for 5 hours, right? So I think there's been a game changer. Not only just our customers, they want more love, right? But they're also willing to share more love, right? But it's our people that work for us. You know, it's not times money or I'm doing this for the money. I think a lot of that's changed. That's a very good point, Ruan.
Yeah, I mean, there's no value in doing something just for the money, because ultimately the money gets deflated really fast anyway, so it really doesn't mean anything. But money is energy, right? It's important to realize that when I make money, I'm going to use it differently than Shane's going to use it. However we want to exude our energy is what that money is used for. For me, like you said, how in the world am I doing what I'm doing with the money that we're making? Well, I just spend money a little bit differently than other people might spend money, right? Yes. Some people use business and try to just focus so much on those 3 people you said, the lawyer, the accountant, the banker. I don't know any of those people, and I don't need to. I know the accountant, that I do. But in that situation, it's when I make this energy, how am I going to use it? It better be to make more energy, because I don't want to die. When you don't have any more energy, you're dead. So when you have $0, you die. Well, you can
that's all sizzle, you know.
It is, yeah. It's all sizzle, right? I mean, it's whole lot, right? I think it's really about making sure that your energy, you use it to create more energy. Because if you don't, you die.
Yeah, you die, and miserably. You know, I want to be laying back there, and I want to be having nothing but great memories. You know, like if you stab me in the middle of the street, I want to be laying back going, oh, what a great life. I don't want to be sitting there worrying about, oh my God, I didn't earn enough money. I didn't do this, I didn't do that. I want to be thinking about those great nights, those great days, the motorbike rides, the stuff I cooked, the smile on my wife's face when she eats my risotto.
Okay, so I want to share something with you.
Okay.
What I was asked a question Friday from 2 of one of my closest friends and a client, actually, and they said, Ron, what keeps you going? Like, what do you do all of this for, right? If I were to ask you that question, I'd love to hear what you do it for. For me, I want people to look at our website, our service, our product, and think deeply to themselves, how the hell is he getting that done with the price he's charging? That's my main goal in business. I need people to, when they see what we do, they're impressed. They can't see themselves doing what I did. That's my goal in business. I would love to hear that.
In business, I'm pretty much the same, but I want people to look at it and think, why would I do it myself?
That's great.
You know what I mean? And you know what? I got to be honest with you. It's one of the most frustrating things for me.
Yeah.
Because you know our pricing is just crazy, right? And you know, we can build a 5-page to 10-page templated site for $180.
Yeah.
And I look at some of the sad sites that they've done themselves. And I sit back and I go, why would you do that? I mean, what gives you pleasure? Playing golf? You could be playing golf while I can make it and you could sell it for $1,500. You know, why would you do it yourself? So my goal is that they look at that. And another funny thing, my blog. I love it that people can read that blog, get a story that they can use to create a better relationship, because relationships are open with stories. Hey, you wouldn't believe it. That's what happened to me. Hey, let me share with you my moment. You know, I had a bad, stomach virus in Indonesia, when they're talking about they got travel and they got sick, or they had, the monkeys in Thailand drove us mad, stole my wallet. Crazy. I had this night in Thailand, right? I love stories, and all my blogs are stories. They're stories about my dad. They're stories about movies. So I got 2 things. I want them to look at my website and go, why would I do it myself? And secondly, I want them to have that ability that I'm giving you something. I'm giving you a gift that you can use these stories to sell more things. So that's important to me. Like now, we're sharing our knowledge. You and I are both very successful. We're not getting paid for this. We're doing it because it gives us pleasure, right? And I don't know about you, but if you had people message you and say, "Can I have 5 minutes of your time?" Right? And they're genuine. They want 5 minutes because they're struggling. I love those moments. I really do, because we've been given a special blessing. We've got great businesses. We work with great people. Dude is a sensational company. And there's newbies out there that are feeling a bit of pain. They haven't got to the pleasure bit yet. I love sharing that with them. So, yeah, that's important to me as well. They feel that from the camel.
And I think with the Camel and Develomark both have a similar belief system where everything that we do, from when we get a customer to an employee to a business partner to a new service, we need to convince ourselves or the customer, why in the world would I do it a different way, right? And if you can convey that message, if I go to Camel's website and it completely tells me I'm absolutely stupid if I do it myself, it's a success for you. When somebody looks at the Develomark website, we've recently launched a few where I've had several people from the Duda community message me and asking how we do certain things on the website, because a lot of people will blame the content management system for its capabilities, right? And so we do certain things where people are like, how in the world did you manage to pull all of this off charging this rate? And you want to hear the answer, Shane? It's not sexy. We didn't make any money. We didn't make any money. I mean, that's just what happened. We broke even on the sale, but then the relationship long term with that customer is worth tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the first thing that they see, right, the first website that you deliver to them, it better be something all of their friends are talking about. If it's not, there's possibility of that pain point where they can leave in the near future.
You blow me away on that. And if you think about it, that's another point. The end game. What's the end game? To keep them there a long time and sell them value-added services, build a relationship so they never leave you. Right?
Yeah.
So you mightn't have made money out of that. We've done that a lot. Made no money on the website.
Too often.
Right? But made a lot of money in the end game and had great friendships. Because that's super important to me. I want to be mates. You know, we're going to do another road trip in September. We're going to go to Denver first, then we're going to go to Australia. And I can't wait. I'm going to catch up with like Eva, who's an agency out of Darwin. I'm going to catch up with Emma and Clayton, who are agents in Toowoomba in Queensland. Right? And they're great mates now. Right? And we don't build a lot of websites. We sell them widgets and that. But I just love the fact that Moomy and I can rock in the rent-a-car and sit down with Emma and Clayton and have a beer.
Yeah.
The relationship's so important. That's the sizzle.
Yeah. And
that's the pleasure, not the pain.
And talking about a severe sizzle is when the Egyptians made the pyramids. This is exactly what I want for our company, right? When the Egyptians made the pyramids, people thought now they were aliens that were making them because of how complex that task is. But to them, they were just doing, day to day. Now, when we look at it, when we look at the creation in the end game, we are wondering how in the world could these people have done this? Oh, it must have been something extraterrestrial. When people look at my website, my brand, my team, my entire energy that's being outflowed from this $1 million that we make, it better be something where they're like, there's no way they're doing that with just $1 million.
I agree. I love it. That's good. And did you have that when you weren't making $1 million?
Absolutely.
Same here. When we were making, I think, $5,000 a month, we had the same attitude as what we have now. And I think, that's the separator, the differentiator between the sizzle sellers, companies, the pleasure companies, is we got that same driver, rich or poor. Make money, not make money. We still end up making more money.
Right.
But it's the same driver. Whether you spend $100 with me or 100,000, I give you the same love. Right? Because one day that $100 might turn into 100,000.
Yeah.
You don't know.
or they'll tell someone who is 100,000 about
Or
you.
is 100,000. You know, the old referral, greatest thing ever invented, right?
We've had that happen several times. Because people know when you're doing them a good gesture. When you're starting off, right, if you're at your first $5,000 a month, unfortunately, your unique selling proposition is a good price.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of BS advice out there for web developers and web designers to charge what they're worth, but you're not supposed to charge what you're worth because you're worth almost nothing, right?
Yes.
You're just starting out. So what you should be doing is charging less, but getting more customers so you get that energy flowing. And then once you have a demand of customers, then you're worth something. And people don't like hearing that advice, but that is the reality of things. When we were starting, we were charging $500, $2,000, whatever it may be. But now it's come to a situation to where we'll still work with customers, of course. But in the beginning, I just hate the advice of charge what you're worth and try to overprice customers in the beginning. That's not what you should be going for. You should be going for, hey, look at all these customers we've worked with, and you just continuously scroll until they can't. The customer's looking at your phone, your website, and they're like, okay, I'm done scrolling. Let me just call this company. That's what your goal should be with the amount of work that you do.
That's great advice. I love that. I also hate that when people say charge what you're worth, wah, wah, wah. I sit back and go, well, you're not going to be around long, buddy. Right? And, you know, you got to go to the show. You got to do the circus, and, you know, you got to entertain, and you got to build your worth. And in the end, it doesn't even become like a conversation. It's just like, yeah, I'm happy with that. Right? And I mean, I've had people yell at us for not charging them enough. You know, and I'm like, that's what it is. Yeah, but and you know, they've got that. They've also got pleasure out of the deal, and that's like, does it add a monetary sum to it? Does it make an invoice pleasurable? You know, I don't know. You know, I've had people that feel really guilty when they're late. Right? Why? Because there was pleasure in everything that we do together. So they felt like they were causing pain. You know, it's a funny world we live in. It's so much about business is life. Pretty simple stuff. You know, people like nice people, and good things happen to good people. Just run it like that and you'll have an easy time. If someone like me can do it, anybody can. As Chef Cousteau, anyone can cook, right? Great movie, that, Ratatouille.
Oh, yeah, Ratatouille's good.
Yeah, I love Ratatouille. It's one of my favorites. Right?
Yeah.
That and Moana.
Yeah.
Make way, make way.
Yeah, Disney is all about sizzle.
Well, the last point, I don't know if we're going to get to it because we're almost gone. The last point, when it says, what's your secret sauce? The best advice I can give anyone. What's the secret sauce about you? Get to Disney level service. Right? Study that. Get on the YouTube, get on the internet and study Disney service and make that your goal, because what has Ruan talked about all day in this last hour? Disney level service. What do I talk about? Disney level service, right? And if you want to know what the secret sauce is, what's going to make you different, sell the sizzle about yourself, but find out first. How do you do that? What are your pleasure and pain points that you give right now? There's things in your business that are causing people pain, right? There's things that give them pleasure. Focus more on the pleasure. So ask yourself those questions. You know, you've asked me two great, deep questions today, and I've discovered even more sizzle about myself that I'm not utilizing, that I will be. That one bit of advice about, you know, sell it for what you think you're worth or something like that. I love that. I'm going to use that in a meeting on Thursday. All right. So the last point was, what's the sizzle? What's the secret sauce about your business that separates you from the other million people in a Google search? Ask yourself that question. What in your business gives your customers pleasure and what gives them pain? focus more on the pleasure, start working on the pain. You got to get rid of it. And every business has pain points.
And I think to that, Shane, one of our secret sauces too is don't be so focused on the pat on the back. A lot of people are so focused on getting the pats on the back, whether it's from themselves or other people. And that in itself puts a Band-Aid on the true pain points in their business. And so, they're going, oh, well, I'm getting pats on the back here, so let me just avoid this. And one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Vince McMahon, he owns the WWE network, billionaire, multi-billionaire.
Yeah.
One of his biggest things was never having a pat on the back. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be confident, but that means that you need to kill your ego. You really don't have a unique selling proposition when you're starting out. You really don't. You're worth basically nothing. But it's exciting that you get to build that worth with every customer you touch. Yeah.
You know, it's funny you say it. Liz Powell, one of the big bosses at Duda, who I got a lot of time for, she absolutely smacked me probably 5 years ago. Smacked me. My ego was bounced all over the room. One of the best things that ever happened to me.
I believe it.
I tell you. And the other one was Ryan Burke. And Ryan Burke was it was only recently, all right, but he did it a bit nicer. Liz was pretty brutal, right? But that pat on the back, once you can get that out of your system, it is a game changer, isn't it? I don't need that.
Yeah,
I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, you get it, but it's important to realize that the moment you get the pat on the back, it's history. You know?
Yeah.
When's the next? Yeah, when's the next?
You're only as good as your last performance.
100%.
You know? I love it. Okay. Did we hit the hour?
We did. We're about an hour and a minute, so I think we're good.
Yeah, we're 2:02. We're going to get the hurry up from
Anton.
Mate, as per usual, I have loved every bit of this hour with you. Kelly, we love you too. Mwah.
Awesome. Yeah, Shane, this was a good time per usual.
You're a champion. I just love it, man. I was good. And I love it that, we cover the topic, but we talk about it in so many different ways. And we just bring that human element. And again, we've both done really well. And we've done really well doing normal stuff, that there's no app for that. And it's there. So, my brother, thank you.
Thanks,
Anton,
Shane. Appreciate it.